Here we are for the review on the Jumper Punch channel of Carlton's 8-point win against Essendon at the MCG on Sunday night, King's birthday eve. It was the Blues prevailing 11-12-78 to the Bombers 11-4-70 in what was a very poor game by our Blues after quarter time. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment here on the YouTube section of this video and let us know what you think about this particular match. Give us your overall synopsis of this match, the players and the team. Let us know how you think they all perform. But this was a game where we mentioned just off the top here that after quarter time, the Blues really struggled to gain ascendancy in the match, and it's amazing to see how a team goes from complete control of a contest, playing the way that they want to do, and then it all just falling apart in the space of 60 to 70 minutes. And credit to Essendon, who are besieged with injury at the moment, who did a great job to make this a real contest by the end of the match. And we were hanging on for dear life at the end. And I want to approach this podcast and this review the way Jocko Willing would. Go type in Jocko Willink's name. He says that whenever things go bad, you just say the word good after it. So everything that I'm going to mention here, we're just going to mention good after it. First quarter, good. Second quarter, game was evened up. Essendon found their mojo to a certain point, but we did well to withstand the charge, and you probably can't play the way we did in that first quarter. It wasn't really gung-ho. I thought we were really composed and really controlled with the ball. Second quarter, Essendon made a few moves, started to get back on top at the centre clearance as well, and that's when there was a real shift and switch in the game. But the second quarter, again, an even contest, but good. Third quarter was a disaster. The third quarter, I think, was typified by Patrick Cripps's move to full forward, and then our midfield struggling to get on top, and Adam Chera, of course, coming back onto the ground after he was hit by Sam Durham in a move that rightfully was suspended. Probably should have got more weeks, but Michael Voss post-game mentioned that he would be having a talk to Patrick Cripps about that particular move to full forward in the third quarter, and then the clearance game completely falling apart. But then again, that means you have to open up a different phase of play. It means you have to score another way. It means you have to gain the ascendancy another way, and we weren't able to. But good. It's an area we need to continue to improve on. Whether or not that's going to improve with these players and these coaches, I think we've seen a big enough sample size to suggest that that's probably not going to be the case. But good. Last quarter, this is the most intriguing part. We kicked the first two goals of that last quarter. A free goal by Blake Acres, who, mind you, had an absolutely horrendous game, irrespective of what the stats may show. He burnt his teammates on numerous occasions, and you thought he'd have learned from the first time, but then he did it again in the centre of the ground when we were clear out a break out the back. And I know he kicked that miracle goal from the boundary, but it's a low percentage play, and didn't really like his game whatsoever. But not to individualise too much, Michael Voss said that we were composed late in the game, and to paraphrase, we saw the game out well. Well, Michael, we conceded the last three goals of the game and we were hanging on for dear life, so I don't really know how that's staying composed. But you want to see a team panic when the pressure comes on after holding a lead, and a big lead at that as well. The lead was out to beyond 6 goals. You just see a team become so frantic and bereft of knowing what to do when the so-called perceived pressure comes on. This was an Essendon team without the likes of a host of gun players, high output players. We're talking Kyle Langford. We're talking Sam Draper. Ben Mackay missed. Jordan Ridley is out. Mason Redmond was a late out. Nick Cox has been a big runner for them and a high output player as well. Harry Jones, who, of course, had that horrible ankle injury. Nick Bryan, we know he did his ACL. So they've got a lot of talent out to the Bombers at the moment. And we effectively played a second-rate, you could even say a third-rate Essendon team. And granted, they were solid enough against Brisbane, but this was our home game on an MCG deck that should have been far more comfortable than it was. And it just goes to show you how much of a struggle we are in at the moment, irrespective of the result. It's more the performances we are looking at here on these reviews and the way I like to analyse the game. But the performance after quarter time was, let's be frank, it was nowhere near the level again. It was, I don't want to say it was an abomination or it was diabolical, because I've used those superlatives time and time again when it comes to this team and the way we play. But look, scores were even from turnover, 7-9-51 to 8-3-51. We scored a lot out of our defensive half, 7-5-47 to 4-1-25. So Essendon did have some moments on transition that would have frustrated the life out of a lot of us. And they did score two straight from centre bounce stoppages, and we didn't score a goal, which is usually a score source for us. But um, we, this game, I wouldn't say we were lucky, but we were, maybe we were. We were fortunate to a point that Essendon did have a lot of players out, and we did make the most of our opportunities in that first quarter. But we've seen this so many times since the early days of Michael Voss and since he's taken charge of this group back in 2022, where we shoot away to an early lead. We play really good football. Then the opposition comes out, takes away some of the way in which we are playing, our ball movement, and the team does get on top, and opposition gets on top around the ball. And then we just fail to find a way to get ourselves back on top, or fail to find a different way to win. And then the team slowly but surely chips away. And it was not as though Essendon charged back with 6, 7 goals in a row inside a 15 to 20-minute period. This was chipped away over a 60 to 70-minute time span, which is even more frustrating, I think. Look, on the basis of numbers and whatnot, and the way our midfield got their hands on the ball for the majority of the game outside of that third quarter, you would have expected us to go on and win the game. But a stat that our midfield continues to be shocking at, and we are ranked last in the competition for this particular number, it's converting first possession into clearances. And I think that is an inkling into the is it the lack of zip and lack of a point of difference in that midfield, trying to find different profiles through that midfield in order to make sure that that first possession to clearance rate ratio is far higher than what it is at the moment. So first possession to clearance rate, we are second last in the competition. We are in front of Richmond at the moment. So we get our hands on the ball at the contest more than any other team, first possession, but we fail miserably at converting that into clearances on a consistent basis. So maybe there is a change up for the midfield to be had. And I think we all know that. Jagger Smith was probably going to be that player, but again, that's looking a little too far ahead and probably looking to be a little too reliant on an 18-year-old who's only just come into the competition. But Patrick Cripps moving up forward, maybe it was a case of Will Setterfield doing a really good job on him, and the Essendon midfielder doing a really good job on him, and him wanting to come out of there and really break that tag and have some sort of an influence on the match. But irrespective of Cripps and Chera coming out of that midfield for certain points in that game, there still should have been enough there outside of that midfield area when the ball did get away from that clearance zone for us to be able to thwart the Essendon clearances and then hurt them the other way. So there were phases of the game with which we did that, and the stats do suggest that because we did score out of our back half. But the concerning part for me is that this game says more about Carlton than it does about Essendon. And I can guarantee you, if we had players in a similar position to what Essendon had missing, if the shoe was on the other foot and we had a host of players out, I think we'd be speaking about a completely different story. But that is a hypothetical, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, I would say, a disappointing 8-point win. But it's good because the standards have increased. The standards within the fan base to a point definitely starting to increase. You're not happy and frustrated with a win against your arch enemy when you know you should be winning by more? Good. Frustrated with the performance of the captain? You're frustrated with the performance of certain leaders and individuals? Good. Don't think there's too much to harp on about in this game, to be quite frank. We've got two opponents over the next fortnight, which, I mean, we surely should beat, but nothing is a fait accompli with this group at the moment. I don't know who's going to come in a little bit later in the week. There's a bit of noise around Harry Mackay and his knee at the moment. I would be erring on the side of caution with a player like him. If we can't rotate our squad, with all due respect, against West Coast and North Melbourne over the next fortnight and come away with comfortable wins, well, if we're struggling at the moment, then if that's not the case and we struggle with wins or we even lose one of these two games, then I don't think the word struggle is going to be used. I think the words dire straits are going to be used, and borrowed time is going to be etched alongside the name of our senior coach and maybe some of these senior players as well. But look, I was at the game with Terry, and Terry from Blue Abroad, and we had moments where we really got up and about, but as the game wore on, we just sat there in our own thoughts, and I think most of the crowd was sat there waiting for the job to be done and waiting for us to get ourselves back into goal scoring mode in that particular match, and we did to a point in that last quarter, at the beginning of that last quarter, but we just weren't able to go on with it. The margin got back out to nearly 5 goals, and we couldn't put them away, which is just such a frustrating thing, but for us at the moment, we're not in a good vein of form. Even our wins outside of the Geelong game, our wins have been far from convincing. You can almost put aside those West Coast and North Melbourne wins because those two teams are clearly inferior opposition, but we wait and see what happens over the next fortnight. But we need to stop panicking and stop spraying the ball around and straying away from brave, assertive, directive football when it just seems to not really be going our way on the scoreboard. But unfortunately, and we've mentioned this ad nausea throughout the last year and a half, 2 years, and even before that, that if you can't respond under pressure, the repetition of that means you will only get worse at it. And it seems as though we're in this patch where a lot of these senior players who these younger boys are looking up to, I speak of the likes of Cooper Lord, Matt Carroll, Will White, those young players, Hudson O'Keefe as well. Big word of commendation to him. He competed really well. He's still struggling to get separation with regards to being ahead of the ball and playing in the forward line on his opposition. But hopefully, as he progresses and his aerobic capacity improves, he'll be able to gain that separation on his opponents with repeat efforts. I thought he competed really, really strongly, and that's something that is a big strength of his physicality around the contest. He's grown into his frame. He's put on a lot of size during the preseason, and he's got a bit of the see you next Tuesday about him as well, which is an insight I got given from some people at the club. So he's one to definitely look forward to. But a lot of these younger boys are looking up to these senior leaders in order to handle the pressure, and it's these younger boys who are taking the risky kicks when the game is on the line. It's these younger boys who aren't fumbling. It's these younger boys who are really trying to take on the load of winning games of football for this football club when expectations are so high. And it's definitely an admirable trait for a lot of these younger boys. And they need to continue to do that. And I think they need to show some of these older fellas that the blissful ignorance of being a young footballer and not really knowing what it's all about at the level just yet without that experience, I think could maybe it can wear off on some of these senior players who just seem to frantically rush when they are under pressure. But this is, I mean, we're talking about pressure against an Essendon team who are missing so many players, and this is in the middle of the year. So imagine these players trying to handle the pressure of finals when expectations are placed upon them. Sam Doherty, back to his best. No shock that it's come with a move back to half back. Took a really courageous mark late in the piece, and there's still a lot of fight in the old dog. Still a lot of fight in him. We know what his deficiencies are at the moment. That's reliability and those dump kicks that don't really do us any favors at the best of times. But sometimes you just need to boot the Sharon out of those danger zones. But I thought he was solid enough again on the night. But check out the Jumper Punch, of course, Tuesday night. Forever Rivals on Wednesday night. I'll have a preview of the West Coast game a little bit later in the week. But again, we just seem to be repeating the same things with this team over and over again. If it's not one scenario where we're up by a lot of goals and then we let a team back into a game over a prolonged period of time, over that 60 to 70-minute time frame, then it's just us being in a dogfight with opposition and then not being able to see the game out in the last quarter. But thankfully, we got the job done. 4 points in the bank. Let's move on to West Coast. And I don't think this game is going to be remembered I don't think this game is going to be remembered. Put it that way. If it goes in the archives, I think many people are going to burn this tape. So on to West Coast, here we go. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know how you think we went. If there's anything I've missed that you think we need to focus on during our shows in the coming week as we head towards the West Coast game, let us know in the comment section. And we'll see you on Tuesday night. Go Blues.